Hare Krishna Maharaj,
Hare Krishna.
Dhanasana. Nice to see you there. Have been a while, so nice to have the association today. Just quickly introduce you. We're also recording Facebook Live, so I would like to introduce you, Maharaj. Not that you need any introduction. We always our pleasure to have your association here. So, those of you who don't know, Maharaj was born in Belgium and it was serving Srila Prabhupada since 1992. And when Maharaj met His Holiness Bhakti Sharu Swami in 94, he very quickly took initiation and then took second initiation very soon after that in 1996 and also joined Radhadesh Temple. Since 2002, Maharaj been involved in the GBC, that's the governing body, and he currently serves as a member for Sannyas Ministry and as a member for the ISKCON Board for Examination, and also running a lot of online courses, Bhakti Shastri and above, Bhakti Vaibhav. Also travels around the world preaching so many things. Maharaj has been doing, and he took sannyas in 2015 again from His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami. So just want to welcome Maharaj. Three Haribols. Haribol Maharaj. Haribol. Haribol. Jai. Tandus Pranam Maharaj. Can't hear you at the moment, Maharaj.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. I'm very happy to be with you today. It was some time ago.
Yeah.
I'm presently in Bulgaria. Please accept my obeisance, always Srila Prabhupada. Today I will speak on the topic, yes, false ego or real ego. The fact,
Wonderful.
at least that's the title. And I will start with speaking on a verse from Bhagavad Gita, and that is verse 6-7. That I will see that I can get it on the screen for you. 6-7. And now just I will share it with you. So there it is. That
Yes.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I read the Sanskrit first. Shitatmana prasantasya paramatma samahita Shitoshna sukadukeshu tata manapamanayo. Translation. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Actually, every living entity is intended to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. When the mind is misled by the external illusory energy, one becomes entangled in material activities. Therefore, as soon as one's mind is controlled to one of the yoga systems, one should be considered to have already reached the destination. One has to abide by superior dictation. When one's mind is fixed on the superior nature, he has no alternative but to follow the dictation of the Supreme. The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. The effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the the dictation of Paramatma or the Super Soul. Because this transcendental position is at once achieved by one in Krishna consciousness, the devotee of the Lord is unaffected by the dualities of material existence, namely happiness and distress, cold and heat, etc. This state is practical samadhi or absorption in the Supreme. I'll read the verse once again. Shitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahita sitasna sukha dukeshu tatamana pamanyo. For one who has conquered the mind, the Super Soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Omajnana timandasya tinansa sunaka sakshu militam yena tasmai shikove namah. Chichitayamana upistam staptam yena bhutale Shvam Rabgadamyam Dadati Shvam Padantikam Vandyam Shiyuda Padakamalam Shiyum Vaishnavam Sha Shirupam Jagajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Pajamasaitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagalita Shivishakam Vitam Sha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Chatpate Gopesha Gopkakam Taradakanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanashve Vishabhana Sutadevi Pranamama Haripre Pancha Kalpta Vishake Pasin Vivishapad Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sringavadi Paskachari Desatarani. Srila Prabhupada Ki. The Srila Prabhupada here, he mentions in the beginning of this chapter that yoga means controlling the mind. But in the beginning, because the mind is impure, we cannot meditate constantly on Krishna. We must first perform work, do karma yoga, to purify the heart. And that's the beginner stage. The Aruruksa is the beginning stage. But then Krishna explains how to come to the Yogaruda stage, the higher stage of yoga where one can meditate. So one can come to that stage when one has given up the tendency to engage in sense gratification, to live for enjoying the senses. And Krishna says, Udaretatmanatmam atmanam avasadyat atmevi atmanabam bandhu atmeva rupepur atmanam. So you can deliver yourself with the mind, or you can degrade yourself. If delivering the mind means one comes to that stage finally of the verse today, Shitatmana, one has conquered the mind, one becomes prashant, one becomes peaceful. But how to do that? Krishna says, Bandhu atmatmanastasya inatma natmanachita anadnastu satyatve vartatatmaiva satyavad. The mind can be your friend or your enemy, and the mind is your friend when it's controlled, or your enemy when it's not controlled. Then it's your greatest enemy. But when one has finally come to that point of controlling the mind, then this verse of today says, yes, prasantasya, one becomes peaceful, nashoshti nakangshati, one does not lament anymore or hanker anymore, no interest in things in this world, unless for the pleasure of Krishna. And then, yes, then when the mind is calm, peaceful, then one can feel Krishna in the heart. That's the direct results. And feel is instructions. He gives you instructions. These are the same instructions as in Bhagavad Gita, but he gives them to the heart directly. So then one is every moment connected with Krishna. So that's the perfection we are trying to attain. Now, I was recently studying the 10th canto, chapter 86, entitled Arjuna Kidnaps Subhadra. But of course, at the end of this chapter, there is another story, another history, and it's about Krishna, who visits two of his devotees in Mithila. You know Mithila, that formerly, 2 million years ago, was the home of Janak Maharaj. Janak Maharaj, he was the father of Sita. Wait, that's a whole story. But therefore Mithila is famous. Also Krishna mentions King Janak in Bhagavad Gita as an example of one who has attained perfection to the performance of these prescribed duties, like Janak Maharaj. Krishna says, Janak Maharaj was his father-in-law in his previous incarnation. So Mithila is very known, and Krishna was going to visit. He visited two of his devotees. Two devotees a little different situated. One was King Baulasva, a very great king who was leading an opulent life, and the other was Shrutadev, who was a poor Brahmin. So it's in Krishna book that Krishna, with all the sages, goes from Dwarka to Mithila. And there he expands himself, and all the sages also, into, and he goes at the same time to the house of King Baulasva and to the house of Shrutadev. King Baulasva. Why did Krishna visit King Baulasva? Why did King Baulasva not go to Dwarka? That's mentioned in the Krishna book. That King Baulasva was worshipping the deity of Krishna, did puja every day, and was doing puja every day, and he made a vow: I will never leave. I do this puja every day, and he was attached to Krishna and the worship of Krishna in his deity form every day, in an opulent way. That was his main business every day. So he made that vow, he could not leave. Therefore Krishna came to see him. But at the same time, he went to Shrutadev. Shrutadev, when Krishna arrived, he offered Krishna and the sages mats to sit on, straw mats, And our acharyas are commenting, he had to go to the neighbors to borrow mats because he didn't have enough mats. They see all these details, these previous acharyas, self-realized souls. But then very interesting, Shuttadev sees Krishna. He sees Krishna and he starts to dance out of joy. There was dancing in ecstasy. And he said to Krishna, since I came to this world, that you have always been with me in my heart. And now I see you also in my heart. But I never met you personally in your Bhagavan form. So after millions and millions of years now, we meet. And he was very joyful. But Shuttadev could see Krishna in his heart also. So if we see this verse here, Chitatma Prashantasya, he realized this verse. He saw Krishna in his heart at every moment. And why was that? Why could he see Krishna in his heart? There in the purport, commentaries of our acharyas, they write, he could see Krishna in the heart because he was completely free from pride and envy. So that's the pure stage, free from pride and envy. So, if we don't see Krishna in the heart, we have some pride and envy in the heart. That's noteworthy. That's including myself. That unless we see we are completely pure and free of pride and envy, we cannot feel Krishna in the heart. Of course, we have Queen Kunti explains why. She gives all the reasons, additional reasons, but they come down to the same. Sanmar nashanmashvaya shuta shibir edamana manam pumam. Naivrata vitatam fam tvamakinsana gocham. So there are 4 kinds of intoxications. Aristocratic birth, think you are attached to that opulence, and then there is beauty, which is very temporary, being attached to be beautiful, nice, want to look nice. And then education, think I'm a great scholar, I have all this, but these are disqualifications of feeling Krishna in heart. And some it causes some pride and envy. Now, pride and envy means I have false ego. That's what it means. But how did this false ego come about? So I was just studying the Srimad Bhagavatam and this I studied it for the Bhakti Vaibhava course that I have to present for the Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education. And I found an interesting verse where Brahma start is Visarga. And it creates 5 layers of illusion. And 5 layers of illusion. So let's see if we find it. Yeah. 3:12:2. I bring it on the screen so that we can, moment, share screen. That this is still the Bhagavad Gita verse. Now we go to the 12th canto, to the 3rd canto, 12, and then 3, 12, 2. That is it. That's it. We have it on the screen. So Brahma created, this is before Brahma starts his creation. So before he starts the creation, you know, the first living entities were the 4 Kumaras. Brahma meditated on a process of liberation like yoga, sankhya, tapa, vairagya, these 4, and then the 4 Kumaras came out of his forehead. But before doing that, he created a material atmosphere in which the living entities who want to control material nature can express their false ego. So I hope that's clear. They can. And it creates 5 layers of ignorance. And I read this verse from the Bhagavatam. Sasarshakrinden datamishram atatamishram adakit mahamoham samoham cha tamasakya sakyana vrittaya. Brahma first created the nascent engagements like self-deception, the sense of death, anger after frustration, the false ownership, and the illusory bodily conception or forgetfulness of one's real identity. So these are the 5 illusions that create, that allows us to develop our false ego. Without these layers of ignorance, it's not possible. You can't have material existence. Material existence means I identify with the body. False ego. And and now I want to share with you some details which I will explain. This is my PowerPoint. And here we have Lord Brahma in this verse. And in this verse that I just read, there were 5 Sanskrit terms: tamas, moha, mahamoha, tamishra, and andartamishra. And these are the causes of false ego. If we understand the causes of our false ego, then we can remove these illusions. If we know how to remove them and come to our factual existence of false ego. So tamas, in the verse that I just read, it's called forgetfulness of one's real identity, tamas. Why do we forget that we are a spirit soul, a servant of Krishna? Why is that? Because we forget Krishna. So that's the root cause. We forget Krishna. Therefore, we think ourselves the proprietor and enjoyer, and so that is tamas, the first layer. So Krishna, he knows, we want to come to this material world to be the enjoyer. And Krishna says, okay, no problem. But it's one issue. I'm the enjoyer. There will be no fun if you remember me. So you have to forget me. So Krishna puts us under this, through his representative Brahma, under this first illusion, tamas. We forget Krishna and we forget ourselves. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, of course, Bhaktaram Chakatapasam Sarvalokam Aishvaram Surdam Sarvabhutanam Yatfamam Santim Richati. I'm the proprietor of everything, of all planets. And because it's for me, Krishna says, I have the right to enjoy. I'm the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. But I'm the friend of all living entities, and one who knows this attains peace. So, but if we forget Krishna, we forget that he's the proprietor, and that he is the enjoyer, and we think ourselves the proprietor and the enjoyer. So thinking ourselves the enjoyer is moha. After forgetting Krishna, tamas, then moha. That I will help you to remember it. I write it here, forgetting, tamas is forgetting Krishna. Moha means false I. I'm the enjoyer. That is expressed here, yes, as it's the illusory bodily conception that begins. Because we want to enjoy, but the enjoyment is not for the soul, it's for the temporary body. It's just temporary, all this enjoyment. But
Hare Krishna.
yes, but then, yeah, my internet connection is unstable, says it here. I hope you are hearing me still clearly.
Yes, that's fine, Maharaj. Occasionally it goes off, but most time it's fine.
Okay, so the third illusion is Mahamoha. Then we think that is the sense of false ownership. We think this is false mine. This is mine for my enjoyment. And then from one illusion comes the other. In the verse here, in the third, then it says Tamishra means, anger after frustration. So then you think it's mine. My money, my car, my wife, my husband, but everything is temporary and changes. The money may go, the tax inspector may come and say, and we feel pain and frustrated. I worked so hard and now it's all gone. Someone else took it. So this Tamishra comes. We plan to enjoy in this world, but it never happens as we plan. Always something comes in between. I don't know, maybe in Birmingham you are all very pious and you don't have that problem there. Everything you desire comes always, but mostly it doesn't happen. So that's anger and frustration. And then the last layer of illusion that comes is we think if the body dies, I'm dying. And that's the sense of death. I'm going to die. But we don't die. we leave the body. The consciousness is coming from the soul, and the soul is eternal. We go to our next destination. But it's all. These are 5 forms of illusion, strong forms of illusion. But, of course, what is the solution? What's the root cause? Forgetting Krishna, we said here. So how can we turn it around and get rid of this false ego? It begins with thinking of Krishna. Does Krishna's instruction at the end of the Bhagavad Gita? It says, Manmana, always think of me. That is conclusion. And Manmana, when you always think of Krishna, then what's going to happen? Bhavamat Bhakto, you become Krishna's devotee, Krishna says. Manmana Bhavamacha. And when you are Krishna's devotee, what are you going to do? Majjai, you worship Krishna. You worship Krishna. Mam Namaskuru, you offer him his respects. So this is Krishna's conclusion in Bhagavad Gita. And it's clear that's that's removing all these illusions, these 5 illusions. Now in the Bhagavatam you have pastimes of devotees who were really in illusion, deep in illusion. And one of the pastime is, which we always discuss during Kartik, Managriva and Nalakuvera. These were special personalities, not ordinary. They were sons of the Yaksha, Kuvera. Kuvera is the treasurer of the demigods, very wealthy. So they were, but yes, it said a wealthy man doesn't care for anyone. So they were infatuated by pride and envy. And they were at Kailash in the gardens of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva has beautiful gardens there. They were enjoying there in the water with naked girls. They were intoxicated. Their eyes were rolling from intoxication. And then suddenly, thank you. So, and then suddenly, Narada Muni appeared. And he saw how they were afflicted by pride and envy, false ego, completely identifying as the sons of Kubera, rich sons. And Narada Muni saw them, and he was thinking, oh, they are so degraded. I will help them. I will help them to make advancement and come to their senses. So he arranged for Managriva and Nalakuvera, because they were in that water with naked ladies. When the ladies saw Narada Muni, they covered themselves and left the water. They had some sense of decency, but Managriva and Nalakuvera were too intoxicated. And Narada Muni said, I will curse you. I will curse to become trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. Now you are shamelessly naked. So you can stand there in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj for a long time naked and come to your senses. And finally you will be delivered by Krishna. Narada Muni is a pure devotee. And that's interesting. He says, yes, you will be delivered by Krishna. So Krishna has to fulfill the vows or the words of his pure devotee. So he had to do that. That gives us some hope. Why some hope? Well, our pure devotee is Srila Prabhupada. Once he was in New York, he had a discussion with Allen Ginsberg, Allen Ginsberg, the LSD guru, from the prophet of the beatnik generation in the 50s, who wanted a change, a cultural change. The hippies who wanted to renounce the way their parents were living. They wanted a different life. They saw it did not lead to happiness, but to wars in Vietnam and all these things. So they were already quite renounced. So we have here Allen Ginsberg and Prabhupada had a conversation. And Srila Prabhupada was reading from the 12th canto of the Bhagavatam all the predictions of Kali Yuga. How everyone will become completely materialistic. And the devotees who would still be there, they would live in caves. Because the people at the end of Kali Yuga, they like to eat devotees. Anyway, it's a horrible description. But then Allen Ginsberg was asking Prabhupada, and what with your disciples? And Prabhupada said, they will not be around anymore. They go back to Godhead in this life. Prabhupada said it. If we become his follower. Also in New Mayapur he gave a lecture on the Srimad Bhagavatam. It was his last visit to New Mayapur in France. And there he said, yes, I promise you, if you chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra, chant and follow the four regulative principles and engage in Lord Chaitanya's mission, I promise you, you will go back to Godhead in this life. So Prabhupada said it. Krishna will fulfill it if we do it. But anyway, a curse of a sage is always a blessing. So Managriva and Kanal Kuvera were in these trees, but they had still full consciousness in these trees. And of course, every day they would see the resonance of Vrindavan and they would speak about Krishna and they would hear that. So every day they got a big doses of Krishna Katha, hearing about Krishna, remembering Krishna. And that breaks down the false ego. And just by hearing that, they became devotees. They became devotees of Krishna just by hearing. They became purified. It is said that servants of Kuvera, they would come every day to these trees and ask Nala Kuvera Managriva what they heard and what the wishes were of the residents of Vrindavan, Gokul. and they told everything, and everything that the residents of Vrindavan would desire, mystically that appeared somewhere. The servant of Kuvera would supply everything. But of course, we know Krishna on the Damodar Lila, when Mother Yasoda has bound him, she bound him with ropes to a grinding mortar. The grinding mortar was a public grinding mortar, a very big one in the middle of the courtyard, was used by different families, and Krishna was bound to that. Of course, we know Krishna allowed him to be bound by the love of Mother Yasoda. But it was always the cord was 2 inches too short, which means, these 2 inches, we can close them by our endeavor to be serious in Krishna consciousness. Commit to the chanting of 16 rounds and 4 regulative principles. And then the second is mercy. That will attract Krishna's mercy, finally. But Krishna, Damodar, was bound to this grinding mortar, and some other friends came, toddlers, and they saw Krishna bound to the grinding mortar. And they were thinking, Krishna has not even eaten today. So they brought from home sweets, and they were giving Krishna sweets. But then Krishna saw these 2 trees, these big Arjuna trees, which it is said they were up to 23 meters tall. Very So, and he remembered the words of Narada Muni. And he could do, he had to fulfill the words of Narada Muni. So, it is said, or Acharya said, these friends who were with Krishna made them paralyzed, that they could not move. And Krishna started to move, pulling the grinding mortar toward the trees. But in the spiritual world, everything lives, is conscious. So when he was moving, the cord became like elastic, and it started to cooperate. So Krishna was moving, and then by the elastic cord, the grinding mortar was following. And gradually, he moved toward the 2 Arjuna trees. It must be said that day was the day of Diwali. Interesting, because Balaram was not there, and most of the residents were with Nanda Maharaj to Upananda. Upananda, the older brother of Nanda Maharaj, they were there to celebrate Diwali. Now Diwali happened 2 million years ago, after the victory of Ram on Ravan. Ram revived all the monkeys, and they went in a flower airplane to Ayodhya, and they arrived there. and all the residents of Ayoda were offering lamps to Lord Ram, the conqueror over evil. And already 5,000 years ago also they were celebrating that, so nobody was there, but then in the afternoon they came back. And when they were nearly there, they saw when Krishna, when his grinding motor got stuck between these Arjuna trees, he pulled and these big Arjuna trees fell with a big sound. And out of these trees came two demigods, so Nalakuvera and Manigriva. But now they had still the demigod forms, but their consciousness was different. Now they had become devotees of Krishna just by hearing about Krishna and performing devotional service. So that's the process to get rid of our false ego. And they offered beautiful prayers to Krishna, then circumambulated him 3 times and asked him permission to leave. And then they went up in the air and they left. At that moment, these toddlers, these friends of Krishna who were paralyzed, could move again. And at that time, Nanda Maharaj came back. And with all the residents of Vrindavan, they had heard this tremendous sound of these trees falling, and then they saw Krishna between these trees. And Nanda Maharaj came straight to Krishna, who was still bound on the grinding mortar. And he said, "Oh, Lord Vishnu has saved you. Who has bound you? Who is that evil person who has bound you to this grinding mortar?" And Nanda Maharaj said, "Yes." Well, Krishna said, it's Mata. So after that, they didn't speak for 3 days with each other. But then these friends of Krishna said, when Krishna pushed this grinding mortar, then these trees were falling, and great personalities came out, and they offered prayers to Krishna. They circumambulated them, and then they went up in the air. But all the residents of Vrindavan, Nanda Maharaj said, the elder one said, "Oh, this is child talk." They didn't believe them. So this is this beautiful pastime, Manigriva and Nalakuvera. It's a story of going from the false to the real ego. And the process is shown very beautifully here. So, this was my message today for you. So we have now time for questions.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, wonderful pastimes and wonderful explanation of the 2 types of egos. Maharaj, I wanted to ask, so ego, false ego, intelligence, and mind, I mean, they tend to be considered material as well, isn't it? They're considered material, subtle, but material. So how do they differ when you're in a spiritual body? Then what happens to the material, say, false ego, or the material mind? What happens to it? How does it spiritualize, or what changes?
Yeah, the first thing which is to understand here is that, and that's explained in the Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, verses 4 to 7. There in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, "The conditioned soul has its own thinking and feeling also in the unconditional state. in the spiritual state. So when we were in the spiritual world, we had a spiritual body, which is a spirit soul, it's not different. And we had our own thinking, feeling of feeling. But when somewhere or other we wanted to come to this material world, we wanted to forget Krishna and create this, and we came under illusion of this false I and mine. But we cannot use our spiritual intelligence and our spiritual mind in material things. So Krishna, from the moment we came to this material world, we got this subtle body, which is material, but subtle. And our own thinking, feeling and willing became inactive. And now we are thinking through this subtle mind. But we are not this mind. What's the proof that we are not this mind? That we can control the mind. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, what controls the mind? It is the soul directing the intelligence who controls the mind by engaging it in Krishna's service. So we have this material and spiritual, this material subtle body. I just want to clarify where this comes from. Otherwise, so the point is, we must get liberation. And you find, I think, in the second canto, chapter 10, verse 6, there Sukadev Goswami gives a definition of liberation. And he says, the liberation is the permanent situation of the spirit soul, free from the subtle mind and intelligence, from this material intelligence and material mind. One must become free from it. Free from it, one must destroy this subtle body. But that's not so simple. You cannot take a hammer and not possible. How can we destroy the material mind and material intelligence? By spiritualizing it. How do we spiritualize the mind? Krishna says, Manmana, think of me. How do we purify the intelligence that we are doing right now by hearing about Krishna from Bhagavad Gita in the Bhagavatam? Spiritual intelligence. That will purify. Well, because it's a false ego that makes us think I'm the body. That false ego is created by an impure mind and intelligence. If the mind and intelligence is purified, then there is no false ego anymore. Then your thinking, feeling and willing is done again by the spirit soul. And that is Shima Mukta, liberated. This is high philosophy, but it's important to understand that. Because in a conditioned state, this sounds theoretical, but you can practice it. Like Shutadev. He got a perfection. Narada Muni, Srila Vyasadeva, Sukadev Goswami have all done it. Why not us? They give us the process. So does that help?
Definitely. I was just thinking. So this thinking, feeling, and willing in the conditioned state is done by the mind, and in the spiritual state is done by the soul. That's our original state. So
Yeah.
the soul does the thinking, feeling, and willing. So then we no longer need the mind in the spiritual world because the soul itself is doing all the thinking. Am I right?
That's right. But what is a symptom of such a liberated soul? There are many symptoms of the liberated souls that, and I have a whole seminar on that. Symptoms of fortunate souls, liberated souls. That, but such a liberated soul is not interested in sense gratification anymore. You cannot go back to the spiritual world if you want sense gratification, because there is no sense gratification in the spiritual world. You will not be happy there. The symptoms of liberated souls are explained in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is asking 2 times in the 2nd chapter, I think verse 54, what are the symptoms of a liberated soul? How does he speak? How does he walk? And in the 14th chapter, verse 23 of 23 or 24, is saying that, please Krishna, tell me what are the symptoms of someone who has transcended the modes of nature. And Krishna gives a whole list. Of course, the process to attain that and purify our knowledge is explained in the 13th chapter, verses 8 to 12. This is the process to get liberated. That and so many things are there. The first is one must be humble. Humility is the first item of knowledge. That's the opposite of pride and envy. Humble. Then I understand I'm insignificant. I'm in difficulty. That, yes. So many things to say about that. So does that help?
Definitely. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Our issue is that we already dealing with the material nature, the material energy, and then on top of that, we're dealing with the mind as well, who can be your foe. Mind can be your foe, but we can convert that to your friend. But material energy, can we make friends with material energy? Who actually acts as an enemy? Can that be converted into a friend?
Mm-hmm. That is explained in Bhagavad Gita, and that is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna tells to Arjuna, you have your material nature. We have our nature, our mind has a certain nature to do things. And we have to use that nature, that material nature, in the service of Krishna. And that's the process of converting material and spiritual energy, which is explained in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And that is what we do, converting material and spiritual energy by using our tendencies to, even our tendencies to enjoy and so on, but in a certain way, like I want to cook, I want to make very tasty things. I cook for Krishna, offer it to Krishna, and then we eat. Second enjoyer. So false ego means I'm the enjoyer. But Krishna says, no, you may also be the enjoyer, but you are not the enjoyer. I'm the enjoyer, the first enjoyer. And so in that way, our material tendency we use in Krishna's service, and that's the basis of Varnashram system, Varnashram. Yeah, that it's based on guna, our tendencies, things we are good in. Some are intellectuals, some are workers, some are warriors, and we use these tendencies in the service of Krishna. Of course, that must be done under the guidance of the Brahmins in the Varnashram system. But we do it under the guidance of the spiritual master. How to engage disciples, their disciples, in Lord Chaitanya's mission. And that is the process to get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, because they have the key to the spiritual world. Goloka Vrindavan. Hare Krishna.
Right, thank you, Maharaj. So anybody else like to ask question? Kanchan Mataji, Prem Prakash Prabhu, if you would like to ask, Venkat Prabhu, if you'd like to ask anything, Partha Prabhu is also there. If you'd like to ask any question to Maharaj, today is the opportunity. And as you know, Maharaj teaches the Bhakti Vaibhav classes as well, so it's very knowledgeable. Anything that Partha Prabhu, you were always asking questions, so you can ask to Maharaj today. I think he will have a lot better answer than myself. So please ask. And while we wait for everyone to come up with a question, Maharaj, we circumambulate deities, and you mentioned that the sons of Quer, they circumambulated Krishna before they left. What's the relevance of circumambulating?
Yeah, my understanding is it's an etiquette, it's a showing of respect. And it's done three times in the Vedic in the Vedic teachings means you're showing you mean it three times. There will be chant normally three times Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, which I didn't do, but anyway, that's normally we do. Yeah, it's an etiquette, a showing of respect, because the Vedic culture meant giving respect. That's based on respect. And if we don't have that respect, we make offenses in the chanting. So we have to avoid different forms of disrespect. If we disrespect the spiritual master and do not follow his instructions, we follow only the instructions we like, not those who we don't like, then our chanting will not be so good. That's disrespect. Or we have issues with devotees and we get in a fight with them or disrespect them, then that's offensive. Or another point is we are not convinced about the power of the holy name, that it is Krishna. If we think I will chant, and I do sometimes simple activities, but by the chanting it will be okay. These are all offenses, and we must avoid these offenses. But it's a question of culture, giving respect. And Nalakuvera Manigriva were very respectful. By nature demigods are, but yeah, they were intoxicated before. That didn't go well. But
Thank you, Maharaj. My wife is here, Radharani. I think she wants to ask a question, Maharaj. I'm just going to pass on to her.
yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavats Pranam. Maharaj, I wanted to ask you that if the mind is not your friend all the time, like you are struggling practically every day to make it your friend, is it due to some scars of past lives, or is it due to some offenses in this life as a devotee, or can you just give some clarification or some guidance about that?
In generally, that every situation we get in this life is a reaction on previous lives, also on a subtle platform. But that is not a reason to say, oh, it's my karma, let it go. No, Krishna says, because that's also Arjuna's point, that he says to Krishna, you want me to control the mind, but it's chanchala, it's flickering, it's obstinate. I cannot do it, and this is nothing for me. But Krishna says, yes, you can do it by abhyas and vairagya, by practice. If the mind wanders from Krishna, you have to bring it back. Always bring it back, and learn to be detached. To be detached is good to learn to hear every day Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. That's one of the symptoms of condition of liberated souls. They understand everything is temporary. No need to make big arrangements in your life. Soon the body, we have to leave it. That temporary. Yeah. There was this devotee, I forgot his name, but he got a benediction of Lord Brahma. Got his name, but as many hairs there were on his body, he would, for each hair he would live a day of Brahma. So his body was full of hair. And he was chanting, was a devotee, chanting Hare Krishna, very long life. And he was chanting in the sun, and his disciples said, oh Guru Maharaj, we will build for you a bhajan kutir that you don't have to be in the sun. And he said, don't waste your time for it. I'm here just for a moment. So it's all temporary. If we understand the temporarity of things, we can let things go. Let them go. Also with your mind, don't absorb your things in things which are nothing to do with Krishna conscious. I see sometimes devotees, they are fighting with each other. That's those who are vaccinated, those who are not vaccinated, and yeah. But it's all a temporary thing, it's not so important. Stay out of this. Cultivate Krishna consciousness. Don't become overly absorbed in reading the news, all these things, but hear about Krishna. And make that our priority. And generally, that will be helpful. So the lifestyle in goodness, that very regulated life in Krishna consciousness. And then we will be able to conquer this mind gradually. And it's not easy. Sometimes Krishna let us go to very difficult situations. And everyone. But we try our best. That should be, because why does Krishna do that? Because we are not willing to give it up. So he's helping a bit. That what you want is troublesome, give it up. All these attachments, soon we have to go. But that's mostly a gradual development. But if we hear about Krishna regularly, that will help us to cultivate this detachment. Does that help?
Yes, Maharaj, the more one tries, sometimes it seems that the more the mind is obstinate. So in that situation, do we have to be very strict with our mind, or do we just persevere with it, just keep on practicing what we are practicing in our Krishna consciousness, that one day surely it will come in our control?
Yeah, it's said in the Bhagavatam, Prayanalpa Yusha Sabhyam. Thus, in this age of Kali, everyone is constantly disturbed. Yeah, and that makes us suffer. All this attachment and this disturbance. But it's a question, like I'm always thinking about. Someone asked Srila Prabhupada during a Bhagavatam class, do you have lust in your mind? And Srila Prabhupada said yes. But then later that day, he went out of the temple and into the car, and the devotee who asked this question in the morning opened the door of the car. And Srila Prabhupada looked at him and said, yes, I have lust in my mind, but I have no time for it. So that is the point. And not that Prabhupada had lust in his mind, but it is saying that to teach us. Be always engaged in Krishna consciousness. Then you forget about these things. And we should try our best to do that. Always busy with Krishna and trying your best to not to think too much on all these problems. There will be difficult periods. We cannot avoid that. But gradually, if we keep on trying, that Krishna will be merciful. That's our hope. That
Yes,
we try our best.
definitely.
That's all we can do.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, we have a question from, I don't know the name because it just says iPhone. So it's a very nice question. What does seeing Krishna in the heart mean? Does one literally see, or is it just a feeling?
Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada was in the beginning in New York. This was a Sunday feast. Srila Prabhupada gave the lecture, and after that, one of the devotees were talking with guests. And the devotee said to the guest, and Prabhupada heard that please take these books. These books are written by our spiritual master and was inspired from within to write these books. And Srila Prabhupada interrupted and said, no, Krishna dictated me these books personally. So there's direct contact. Like we speak with each other. Prabhupada spoke internally with Krishna. And he got all information. So once, not only with Krishna within, but this is mentioned in that new book of the experience of Prabhupada disciples with Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was visiting a temple and he was speaking to the deity, and a devotee who was close to him heard him saying, and are they nicely taking care of you? And then there was the devotee did not hear anything, but then Srila Prabhupada said, oh, that's very good. So there was a conversation going on, but he could only hear one side. So Krishna, that is direct relationship with Krishna. Seeing Krishna face to face. And that is explained in the Bhagavatam. And I don't have the verse by hand, but there it is said that one who serves Krishna by hearing about him, that I'm situated in the heart, Krishna says. And if the heart is pure, then Krishna says, I take seat there, Krishna says. in the form to which my devotee feels attracted to is Ishtadev. So to a devotee who has developed his relationship with Krishna, Krishna appears in the heart, not as a four-handed Narayan, but in the two-formed Krishna form in which his devotee feels attracted, Gopal or any other form. So Krishna reciprocates. For his devotee, the super soul becomes Krishna himself, the original in the heart. So that is so beautiful. And that's the purpose of our process. You have three parts in the process: Sambandha Jnana, Abhideya, Prayojan. Sambandha Jnana means I have to re-establish my relationship with Krishna. Who is Krishna? Who am I? What is our relationship? And then you must act in that relationship. Abhideya means performing devotional service, and you become purified. If you become purified, then you see Krishna directly in the heart. Prayojan, if you have love for Krishna. But it's not like that one point after another. It's going gradually. If you perform devotional service, Krishna will direct you from within what to do and what not to do. Bhagavad Gita 10:11 purport, and 10:10 also, the Dhammi Buddhyugamtam. Krishna tells you what to do. But you must have a great level of purity to experience that. But Krishna consciousness means living in a relationship with Krishna. That's the purpose of what we are doing here. Always seeing Krishna and living in a relationship with Krishna. But it's not that you see Krishna with these material eyes. That's not possible. You need spiritual vision. But that will come when we reach the perfection. So, does that help?
Yeah, very nice answer. Actually, it's everybody wants to know. Can we see Krishna? They want to see Krishna, but as you mentioned, that is a very, very high stage when Krishna will actually come and see you face to face. I mean, that I think that is that takes time. Obviously, that takes time. Really, if I'm correct to say, Maharaj, that we should see Krishna through His mercy, which we see every day, isn't it? We see Krishna's mercy. I can say that from my own point of view, that we see Krishna through His mercy every day. So that is so nice, and I think if we should worship Krishna, isn't it? That so Krishna wants to come and see us, but yeah, obviously a lot of endeavor is required. A lot of endeavor. Thank you, Maharaj. Do you want to say something? Yeah, okay.
Maharaj, we hear from Maharajas and senior devotees that what we can't change in our life or around us or in our devotional service, we should tolerate it. That's the only way to progress. That's the only way to live in this world.
Very important.
So can you just elaborate a little bit more on this? And I always think that Krishna must also be tolerating us with however we are. However, like when we chant, we try that Krishna is hearing our chanting. Krishna is sitting in our heart. He's accepting our service. But we know that as individuals that how good or bad our service to Krishna is. So Krishna must be tolerating us as well. So can you just explain a little bit more that how we can, how we can make our tolerance level better in this life, so that we are able to perform devotional service, uh,
Disturbed.
which is like you're saying, less disturbed, and which is going to be bringing us closer to Krishna, and Krishna won't have to suffer our offenses on a daily basis.
So we have been speaking about controlling the mind. But in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there Krishna speaks about the austerity of the mind. And the first austerity of the mind is mana prasada, feeling satisfied in whatever situation you are. And that is essential for a devotee. More than 10 years ago, when I was in great difficulty, then Bhakti Charamach instructed me. Whatever good or bad happens in your life, accept it as the mercy of Krishna. And that instruction has helped me always. That it is the mercy of Krishna. And that's also in the Bhagavatam. Tatena kampam samikshama Tatena kampam samikshama banchantame vatma kretvakva. Yeah. Anyway, Tatena kampam samikshama, with that verse of Brahma says that a devotee sees all the suffering in his life as reactions to his past lives. And he thinks I deserve it. I deserve worse. Krishna gives me only a bit. And it's fine with me, because I deserve it. It's Krishna's arrangement for me. Whatever situation he puts me in, I will be satisfied with it. It's all right. It's a high level of surrender. But that's, if you can do it, we will quickly make spiritual advancement. Because that's the duality of, and Krishna says in 334 of Bhagavad Gita, there are two obstacles of the path of devotional service, which are raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion. And this attachment and aversion comes from lust, he explains. And lust is a cause of false ego, a tendency to enjoy I and mine. So we must tolerate it and to become equal to it. Whether Krishna gives me a good situation or a bad situation, it's for the body. And subtle and gross body, it's not, as a spirit soul, I have nothing to do with it. I suffer because I identify with the pain that comes up in my mind, but I'm not this mind. But the soul feels it as its own pain, because one identifies with the body. But the soul cannot feel pain. It's an emotion, a feeling in the mind. And because our false ego connects us, and we identify with the pain. So, in that way, it's illusory, but it's difficult to overcome. Therefore, this presentation of today is very important. We need urgently to purify ourselves, that we are not identifying with this good and bad, and that we lose our interest, good or bad. You have a whole life full of happiness, or a whole life full of distress. It doesn't matter. At the end you die. It's all finished. So this is the reality. So become equal in happiness and distress. All this family and so on. We have, and sometimes you get troubles in the family or with friends. That I remember 50 years ago, I was in Brussels and I had so many problems and issues, even when I was young. And now all these people are dead, the situations are gone, it doesn't exist anymore. Gone. It's all temporary. So, even all these problems, so temporary. So we have to connect with the eternal, with Krishna. And then we become peaceful. Let it come and go. And let it just pass. We will serve Krishna. Does that help?
Yes, Maharaj. That takes away the victim mentality from you when you think that anything which is happening is all mercy of Krishna. It's all to make me a better devotee and to gradually help me purify. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank
Yeah,
you for
please
patience.
bless me that I can also follow this in.
No, Maharaj. We are
I, I speak nicely by the mercy of Krishna, but realizing that's another thing, we are also on the way like you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, just want to quickly ask, unless somebody else has a question, I wanted to ask you. So, we mentioned advancement, and you just mentioned we advance quickly. So, for our listeners, so what do we mean that we advance quickly? What are the symptoms of advancing quickly? What's actually happening?
Yeah, that's. I can answer that in a very easy way, or in a more elaborate way, but easy way I would say, how can I know that I advance quickly? Because you are always ecstatic and happy in your service. You are satisfied with your service. Then you are advancing. That so that's nice. You like to chant. You get taste. That's advancement. That of course this taste comes when we please the spiritual master and we hear sufficient. A misconception of many devotees is, yes, you have only to chant the holy name. That and they think, yeah, I've only to chant, I don't have to do other things. Is the yoga dharma okay? But Lord Chaitanya said, yes, you have to chant, only to chant, but without offenses. And without offenses means you think always of Krishna, but you cannot do it. Therefore, we must also do deity worship. We must also hear the Bhagavatam, associate with devotees, hear about Krishna. So we need to do the other things, especially hearing, because that will change our mentality and take away our offensive mentality, and then the chanting will improve. So we need always to be aware of that. Neophytes, many times they think I have just to chant, but the chant must be with quality, and the quality comes from the other activities. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada gave us 5 most potent items in the spirit of devotional service.
I think there's another question, Maharaj. You can say the question, or shall I read it out?
I read it.
Okay.
I will answer it with a story from the Bhagavatam. Uddhava was sent to Vrindavan to console the Vrajavasis that because they were feeling separation from Krishna. Krishna sent him because Arjuna was his friend. He looked like Krishna. He was very learned. When Uddhava arrived in Vrindavan, he saw Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda first. And he saw Mother Yasoda would even not open her eyes. She would cry constantly, and Nanda Maharaj's head down, suffering from separation. And then Uddhava speaks a verse in the Bhagavatam. And the first thing he says, I'm very happy to see you in that condition. Is that not a strange question? That He sees they are suffering. But that means on the spiritual platform, the so-called suffering in the mind is a spiritual emotion of ecstasy. It's not the suffering that we know in this world. It's the highest love and the highest ecstasy of Krishna. Because that we can learn from today. Today you have these 5 forms of illusion. You remember tamas, moha, maha, tamishra, under tamishra? Tamishra means suffering. We're suffering because of I and mine, being attached to things in this world for our sense gratification. That's not there in the spiritual world. So they cannot experience tamishra. They are experiencing the highest bliss. But this is a very high subject matter. This is a subject matter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the PhD of spiritual life. In our neophyte stage, we cannot understand that. So I explain it theoretically because I'm also in the neophyte stage. But although I'm facilitating Bhaktivedanta course and so others, but yes, but we get a good understanding. We can understand something with our intelligence about these spiritual emotions. Suffering on the spiritual platform are emotions of ecstasy, of pleasure. We cannot imagine it because we don't have that experience in this world. That's what I could say on that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Maharaj. We'd love to hear Nasingha prayer from you as always. And just before that, thank you, Maharaj. And just going to quickly just give a couple of announcements for our next week for everybody. So on Tuesdays, we have a question and answer session with the devotees. Friday, Srimad Bhagavatam class and Japa, 8 a.m. till 9 a.m. And we talk about the battle between Lord Bo and the demon Hiranyaksha. And then next Sunday, we have another wonderful Maharaj, His Holiness Dayanand Swami, and a beautiful subject once again. The rains in April are the showers that bring the flowers in May. So what a beautiful topic. So we're discussing that next Sunday. Okay. Much Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Namaste Narasimhaya Paladala Yanyakasipo Vakshaha Silatanka Nakalaye Ito Nishinga Parato Nishinga Yato Yamitato Nishinga Ahe Nishingo Hridaye Nishingo Nishingamadem Sharanam Papade Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Abduta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanubringam Keshavadeta Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisa Hare Jai Jagadisa Hare Jai Jagadisa Hare Keshavadeta Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisa Hare Jai Jagadisa Hare Jaya Jagadisha Jaya Nishingadev Jaya Nishingadev Jaya Nishingadev Jaya Nishingadev Jaya Palat Maharaj Jaya Palat Maharaj Palat Maharaj Shila Palat Maharaj Nishingadev ki Bhakta Palat Maharaj ki Srila Prabhupada ki Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki
Jai. Gaur Prem. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful association we had today and brilliant topic and pastime so sweet. And really looking forward to your next lecture. And I think maybe the one you mentioned, the symptoms of the soul, I think we talked
Symptoms of
about,
liberated souls. Yeah.
yeah, that would be beautiful as well. And so next time, and hopefully very soon, three Haribols to you, Maharaj. Haribo,
Hare Krishna.
Haribo, Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Jai
Thank you, Maharaj. See
Prabhupada.
you.
Haribo.
Bhakti Jai.